just help us understand what happened today for Theresa May, because my understanding was this was about trying to limit the powers of the Parliament to get a say in the end once a deal is signed. And it's those people that are afraid of what a no-deal exit from the EU may mean that we're trying to say, look, we want to be able to stop this if it's a bad deal for the UK. Where are we now?
Well, this is an important piece of legislation that's going through the House of Commons. And what the amendment suggested was that if the government didn't have a deal finalized for the 30th of November, then Parliament could take control of the process. Now, what we see is that has been defeated. So the amendment was defeated, even though it looks for about a week that, Theresa May might lose on this. 6 of her own MPs rebelled. But a lot of the Tory MPs who were threatening to rebel on this, saying that Parliament needed to have a say, were mollified in the end. This has been about a week of kind of backroom trading. Now, we don't know what Theresa May has promised them. But according to some Brexiteers, they've said, that the pro-European Tories, who in the end were subdued and didn't rebel against the government, they were somehow bought off, whereas often Brexit-supporting MPs say they would never put party unity above their Euroscepticism. So it's a victory for Theresa May. Nonetheless, the big questions on where Britain is going vis-a-vis Brexit, so future trading relationships, how to solve the Irish border issue, that still hasn't been solved.
Right, I was just going to say, so Theresa May won this close vote today. I think there was a really similar vote last week or the week before. That was kind of the same thing. She won that closely. In the meantime, the clock is ticking, right? So as she deals with all of these internal votes, is any progress being made on any of the key sticking points with the actual separation?
Absolutely. That's the key question, Joe. So, of course, all of this is semantics to a certain extent because it's all about the degrees and what role Parliament is going to take. But the big question, let's not forget that the UK is actually negotiating with 27 other countries. The big questions there have not been answered. We have a European Council summit next week. We've already seen that the European Commission has updated their conclusions to say that they don't expect much to happen. For a long time in the talks, they thought that this would be the breakthrough summit, and that by October, which is when the next summit is of the next European leaders, they would have some deal finalized. Now the European Commission is already dampening hopes on that, saying we're not only not going to get there in June, but we're probably not going to get there in October either, which means that we're getting very close to the deadline. Let's not forget that Britain has to leave in March 2019. And the way things are going right now, it looks that there might have to be some special summit called in December or even November before the UK leaves. We're getting very, very close to the wire.
Well, and I guess that's the question is, do we continue to have sort of more summits added? Do we even see the deadline being extended? Or is the risk of the hard Brexit just rising and rising and rising?
There is the risk of a hard Brexit. However, I think it's still not my base case scenario. Nonetheless, having said that, you could just have a perfect storm where all these elements collide, and through sheer, the sheer scale of the task means that Britain just crashes out without a deal. They can add emergency summits, but only to a certain extent. They can extend the Article 50 negotiations, but in order to do that, you would need the unanimous agreement of all 27 other EU countries. Nonetheless, I don't think that the EU27 want to see a disorderly Brexit either, because just like the UK, the EU27 are not prepared for a disorderly Brexit. And the biggest question around the Irish border, let's not forget that issue is definitely not solved if Britain crashes out with a no deal. Then we see a return to a hard border on the island of Ireland, which is something that nobody wants. Having said all of that, I still don't see how they're going to square the impossible circle before the date.
Nina, real quickly, how does the tensions within Angela Merkel's own government, she's dealing with her own domestic issues, complicate everything?
It complicates everything massively, and I think what Britain has often done when it comes to negotiating its position in Europe is to over-rely on Berlin. We saw this during David Cameron's own renegotiation with the EU ahead of the referendum. He wanted to rely heavily on Angela Merkel, and what he found at the time was that Angela Merkel was not able to give his renegotiation much attention because she was obviously struggling with the migration crisis. The same can be said for the Brexit negotiations. I think the UK hoped that they could do a special deal with Germany. Of course, Germany has other issues and other problems domestically. And again, you see this trouble that Angela Merkel is in coinciding with a crucial point in the Brexit negotiations, that Council summit next week. Another reason we can't be too hopeful for that Council summit is that the migration issue will be on the agenda. Angela Merkel will be trying to anchor other European leaders around her. You'll have discussions around the EU budget. Brexit is only one of many, many issues that are plaguing the EU at the moment. And in particular, Merkel's, inability to concentrate on this might have an impact on the negotiation.